welcome back. Today I want to show you how to customize strapping for your projects if you're going to do a backpack or anything that might need handles, a tote bag, anything like that. And let's just say this is the fabric of your tote bag. See, very cute. However, all the strapping that you have in stock or on your shelves is this bright green, and obviously this bright green does not work with your project, so you want to make something that's going to coordinate. So what we're going to do is take a matching piece of fabric. See how it matches the back of this. And then we're going to wrap it around, which I know I just showed you this, but I'm going to use this because it's just a small leftover piece I had left. And then we're going to wrap it around, sew it on, stitch it, all that fun stuff. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, for 1 inch strapping, you want 2.5 inch wide piece of fabric. And just like this one here, you want to go approximately 1 inch past, so about 1/2 inch on each side. This is a little bit more than 1/2 inch, and I'll show you why, but you want to go at least 1/2 inch over on each side. And like I said, 2 3/4 inch wide for 1 inch strapping. So the next thing we're going to do is take it over to the machine, and we're going to take this piece, fold it in half, and sew a seam that's approximately 1/4 inch. I say approximately because when I'm doing shorter straps, I like to tighten it up a little bit and make that 1/4 inch just a little bit wider, because then it makes the strap a little bit cleaner and neater. But the bigger your strap is, the longer your strap is, the closer you want to stay to the 1/4 inch, because it gives you a whole lot more give when you're threading it through. So I'll meet you over at the machine and I'll show you how. First thing we want to do is sew this together. So this is considered the right side of the fabric. This is the wrong side of the fabric. You want to take both of your long ends and sew those together, right sides together. Use a 1/4 inch seam. As I mentioned before, depending on the length of your strap, you may want to go a little bit inside the 1/4 inch mark. For me, since I'm just doing this little sample here with this short one, I'm going to go a little bit inside. And what I mean by a little bit inside is this. So if you notice here, you may or may not be able to see it very well, but I've got probably a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch extra over on that side. So instead of sewing right on the 1/4 inch line, I'm a little bit over, and that's to make it a little bit tighter. So I'm just going to slowly sew this together, and like I said, hopefully you can see that I'm a little bit over on that line. If my strap were longer, I would be sticking much closer to the 1/4 inch line, and I'm going to tell you, or I'm going to show you why here in just a second. I'm going to take that all the way to the end. I should have back stitched at the beginning, but my machine does a little bit of a back stitch for me. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little back stitch there and trim it off. Now, the next thing that I'm going to use, well, actually the next thing we have to do is turn this thing inside out in order to cover your strap. So you're left with this, just a little fabric tube, just like that. And I use a very scientific method called a boba straw and a chopstick. So there's all kinds of different things that you can use. They even have tube turning sets that are available online. But for me, I wanted to just go ahead and use what I had at home. So I'm going to go ahead and stick the boba straw inside there. Leave, an inch or so. Then take my chopstick, push that in, and push it through. And then it just turns the tube for me. Take that out. Make my little adjustments here to pull that out. And then I am left with a tube that is right sides out. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take my bodkin. I don't know if you've ever seen a bodkin. You can use a safety pin or whatever you want to use, but I find that a bodkin is really helpful here. It's long, just like a paper clip, or excuse me, like a safety pin. It grips the end of your strap, and then you just put that little ring down and it tightens it. And then you just take this through the end of your strap. Just kind of pinch it just a little bit. Oops. And then you just pull it through just like you would with a safety pin. So do that. And since we're about 1/2 inch over on each side, I'm going to be mindful of that. And I'm right about in the middle there. And then I'm just going to release that little ring and take the bodkin off and get it out of there. Hang on. Oop. There we go. And on this one, I forgot to trim my little thread, so we're going to go ahead and trim that. Okay, so now we're left with a nice fabric covered strap. So you want to make sure that you've got your seam as in the middle as you can get it. And then at the ends here, since we're 1/2 inch over, we're going to cover these straps. So you're going to take your finger and just kind of pull it forward just like this. So this is the way that I do it. You can do it any which way you want to, but I kind of pull it forward like this. And then I push that in and just tuck it all under. So hopefully you can see this well. And then I take a stiletto and I make sure that everything is nice and tucked in there. And then I use the ends of my stiletto to smooth everything out. So it looks nice and neat. And then I take a clip and I clip side 1, and then I go and do the same thing to side 2. I'm going to trim this off just so I don't have an ugly thing there. But just do the same thing, kind of pull it forward a little bit. Use that one finger to tuck that, then tuck. Oops, that didn't work out so well, but there we go, tuck it in. Just tuck it in as good as I can with my fingers, and then I'm going to take that stiletto that I used on the other side and just pull it down. So what I'm doing here, let's see if I can show you, is I'm kind of using this tip to pull the fabric down. Okay, I'm doing it on both sides, just gently. I mean, it could push through the fabric a little bit, but that's okay. And then once I have that good and tucked in, see how I'm pushing it up and then going to the other side and doing the same thing? That gets it nice and secure there. So then I take another clip, and now we have both sides clipped on. So as I've done in many of my other projects, I'm going to switch my foot. This particular foot right here is a Bernina 37. This is the 1/4 inch foot. I'm going to switch it out for the edge stitch foot, which is number 10 on a Bernina. If you do not have a Bernina, I'm not sure what the number of your foot is, but for Bernina, it's a 10. I'm going to move my needle over. The reason why I like this foot is this thing right here. You see this? This helps me because I can tuck this in right here, and it gives me just a perfect 1/8 of an inch top stitch. If you move it to the center, then it's going to help you stitch in the ditch, because then this particular thing would follow the ditch and then your needle follows right behind it. But for me, stitching that 1/8 of an inch on this strapping is just perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and take this clip off, and then I'm going to tuck my strap right there, and then I'm just going to run this through all the way around. When you're using the tucked in ends, you definitely want to go all the way around to all 4 sides. If your straps are going to get tucked into raw edges, like if they're going to get tucked in and you're not really going to see them anyway, I wouldn't worry about doing the tucked in ends. But if you're going to see the straps, then you definitely want to do the tucked in ends. And I'm using white thread here so that you can really see what's going on. And as I've also shown in other videos, I use my finger here to press so that it hits there. So this way it kind of keeps it lined up, keeps it in a good position. So you'll see me, I also use this finger as a guide just to try to keep this thing as straight as I can possibly get it. Now, because the webbing on this print is also white, it might be a little bit of an optical illusion, and it may look like the thread is crooked when the thread is not crooked. So hopefully you can see what I'm trying to do here. I guess I didn't think it through when I was choosing my thread color for this. Right up to the end there. We're going to trim our fabrics. Oops, trim our threads, not fabrics. Right there at the end. And there you have a really beautiful matching strap. Okay, with that edge stitch foot, we were able to get a really nice 1/8 of an inch trim here. I'm going to grab the quilting and I'm going to show you how you're going to want to attach this with an X box. So when we're attaching a strap, if there is a particular joint or particular area that's going to get a whole lot of stress or use, you want to reinforce your corners with an X box. I'm sure you've seen them before, so I just want to show you how to do one real quick. So depending on several things. First off, if my strap needs to come down, let's just say my strap needs to come down 1.75 inches from the top. When you're doing a top stitch or you're adding the other pieces or anything, you have to be able to move your strap up and out of the way. So the size of your X box is going to vary depending on, one, how far down the strap is going to go, and two, how far you need to be able to sew here in your final stages. So for me, I'm just going to kind of show you some basics. I'm 1.75 inches down. So what I'm going to do is make a mark at the 0.75 mark, just to give you, and we're going to line it up with the seam, not the end. I'm just going to make a mark here right across there. Okay, that's going to give me a quarter inch X box. So I'm just going to kind of turn it this way. I could probably go an inch there, but like I said, this is just a sample little project just to kind of show you what you want to do when you're doing an X box. We're going to clip it in place on both sides. Try to make sure that it stays parallel with that top. You see how it's kind of shifted over a little bit? You just want to make sure before you actually start strapping it, or excuse me, sewing that on, that you're nice and straight. Otherwise, if you sew it on crooked, it's going to look a little weird. So there we go. We're nice and straight there. Trim that up. So next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and draw the X. You can choose not to draw the X. You can draw the X. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do. I find sometimes that when I draw the X, it just helps me a little bit to make sure my positioning is good. So I'm going to go ahead and leave my edge stitch foot on, and the reason why is because I'm going to be going over these same seam lines that I went through before. So that way everything lines up really well. But this is what you're going to start, or this is what you're going to start sewing with. This is what it's going to look like. So again, this is a 3/4 inch X box that we're going to sew into here, because I need to be able to pull that strap down in the future. So we're going to go ahead and get this attached. So we're going to start in that same corner that we started in before. Now everybody does their X boxes a little bit different. This is just my method. This is the directions that I go, like, you know, the steps that I take to get my X. I'm going to go to the end. Obviously turn it. I do like to cut that out of the way right away, just so it's not in my line of vision. And at this point, I'm going to take my clips off just so that they don't get in my way. And then I'm just going to make sure that I'm nice and straight. I'm going to take this needle and sew all the way till I get to this line. And then when I get to this line, I'm going to go across. Okay. So just slowly, carefully. I can tell when I get to that line based on when this lines up with this. So not an exact science, but obviously, you know, I'm going to turn. Now because you have your edge stitch foot in here, don't let your eye follow this. Make your eye follow that line, okay? But your edge stitch foot, your little flange thing is going to be about 1/8 of an inch anyway, so that's good. So go ahead and go across. You're going to stop there. And then go down one more time. So you've essentially just made the entire square. And now you're going to go back and do your X's. And the reason why I do this is because this now has a double stitch, this has a double stitch, and this has a double stitch. And in just 1 minute, I'm going to make that second stitch over there. So now we're going to turn this to where we can follow that line. So again, your needle is going to follow this line. Don't worry that your edge stitch is over there, or your edge foot is over there. Now we're going to follow that line to the corner. Okay, and now we're going to turn it again. And again, we're going to go over this line one more time to make it look like the rest of them, because like I said, the rest of them have double stitches, and now this one will too. Just going to follow until we get to that corner, and then we're going to turn her one more time and sew down that other side, that other X, or to make the other diagonal. Right to the corner, and then we are done. I am so sorry for the very poor choice of thread color that I chose on this, because I was really hoping to see it a little bit better, but with the spider web lines you really can't tell. However, hopefully you can see that we've got a nice X right there in the middle, which is reinforcing this whole joint whenever you have, you know, whenever you're putting stress on that. So you've got a nice looking X, and then you've got your double stitches all the way around. So there you have it. I hope that that was easy enough to understand. I hope that from now on you won't be scared to make your own strapping and your own webbing, because you can personalize anything. If you don't have the right color of webbing, you can easily make your own.